Hello, hello, hello! Greetings, salutations! Konnichiwa, and every other form of green across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello there, cool skeleton. Congratulations on getting first. And oh my, great. I'm not gonna repeat what you Matsu talking about. Oh no. Oh, cool skeleton. Why do you do this? Oh, why do you do this to me? Hello there, Dr. Zadium. Welcome, Darth. God damn it, how did I get beat by the first my Halloween decoration? Hello there, Darth. Welcome. Hello there, Julian20. Welcome. Hello there, Firefly. Welcome. And, just. Oh, no. Oh, the evil smile. Cool skeleton. Excuse me, you're making me laugh too hard. And a special welcome to our newest scholar, Cider Martin. Welcome. Oh my goodness gracious. Hello there, Irving08980. Welcome, and thank you for the follow. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I am Matsu Quinox, interdimensional omniversal librarian. This is Horace, and welcome to the study, all you new coming ones. Irving, Joseph, I was out here. I have severe dyslexia, so I can barely read normal. Ah, I see, I see. Well, you don't have to read anything here. I'll be reading. I'll be doing the reading for all of you. So, no worries. No worries. Just to sit back and enjoy. How are all you fine scholars doing, by the way? Is everything going well? Are you having a good day, or evening, or morning? Unit 20. We just listen. Irving, if I made mistakes, that's why. Ah, okay. Okay, understood. Understood. Unit 20. Yes, you just listen. You don't have to read anything. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Oh, you make manga. I see. Cool skeleton. I sure hope DT appreciates the cake I drew. Oh no. Dr. Zadium, having a good day, finally recovering from my cold. Oh, that's wonderful, Dr. Zadium. I wasn't aware you were sick. Aw, well, I'm glad you're starting to feel better. Oh, that's good. Julian 20, I am surviving. Oh, okay. I hope you're surviving. I hope you're doing well. Doing well. I know on my end, Mom Knox, who's been visiting the study for a little bit, she herself is coping. She's doing okay. She's getting her energy up, which means she is. I'm not gonna say she's getting irritating, but she's getting back to her normal self. She's a little headstrong, so yeah, I'm sure things will turn out okay. Julian 20, poor Mom Knox. Yes, poor Mom Knox. She needs all the she needs all the good vibes she can get. Oh, Virgil and Ovid though are looking after her now and keeping her away from the reading room, so I don't get interrupted. But it's good to see everyone here. Good to have you all here. As for myself, it's been a Darth, I'm having a good day. I won 6 to 7 bullet games of chess this morning before my coffee, and another 8 to 9 after my coffee. I saw you slip that number in, Darth. I saw it. You can't hide it from me, Darth. I'm keeping an eye on all of you. Mm-mm. Certain rules, my dear scholars, to know. Puns are evil. The number meme 6 7 is not allowed here, and there was something else on the thing which I can't remember. Oh, don't drink the river water. Do not drink river water. Private Maverick, hello there, Private Maverick. Welcome. Cool skeleton, slip what in? Cool Skeleton. What about 6ix9ine? We are all Cool Skeleton. I'm sure many of us here are absolutely mature adult scholars. So, yes, Darth, the word ejaculate may or may not pop up during the reading. I can't even lie about that. That does tend to happen a lot lately. For some reason, it was a favorite of many authors to say. Wish they didn't. But what can you do? What can you do when it comes to that? Irving, I am pretty good at drawing. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Wonderful to hear, Irving. That's good to hear. Drawing's always fun. We do doodles here ourselves sometimes. I did an art stream, in fact, recently. Matsu doodles. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes, 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 yes. To... Tonight, my dear marvelous scholars, we are going to be reading The Moon Pool. Written by, and I gotta look it up, Abraham Merritt. Now, this is an interesting choice on my end. I was actually looking for what to read, and I realized one of the eras of fiction that we have yet to touch is the era of the pulp magazine. Pulp magazines ran from around the early 1900s to about, I want to say, the 1950s in some aspect. Darth, I love how I said my ejaculate message after you called us mature. The time is yes. Union 20 love those stories. Yes, yes, some of them are good. Irving, the moon pool. Yes, the moon pool. Um, it is the era of pulp is an interesting one. Of course, pulp magazines came in a wide variety of a wide variety of genres. Um, they encapsulate everything from western, science fiction, horror, detective stories, romance, everything. They were often printed on cheap paper. They were very cheap to buy. The stories were often very out there, very over the top. Julian 20, Manly Man. Yes, yes, yes. Um, Quite a few authors started off in the pulps. H.P. Lovecraft, for instance, began his writing career in pulp magazines. Um, Isaac Asimov wrote in pulps. Ray Bradbury. Um, there was, of course, pulp proto superheroes such as the Shadow, the Green Hornet, Doc Savage, to name a few. And this Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote a couple pulp books. And this story apparently was very, very popular. It originally was, I believe, when was it published? I gotta look this up. So it was originally published. Oh my goodness gracious, doesn't have a publishing date on this thing. Give me 1 second, my dear scholars. Gotta look this up. It was originally published as two short stories in a magazine called All Story Weekly. The Moon Pool in 1918 and Conquest of the Moon Pool 1919. It was actually reworked into a novel and released in 1919, and there is a sequel to it. It it was apparently really very, very, very popular, and I'll get into that as we read. I've never actually read it, but it did have quite a bit of impact. Some people have claimed that Call of Cthulhu by Lovecraft takes some aspects from this novel. Union 20, Doc Savage, my hero. Doc Savage is fun. As long as you understand the era it came from and kind of can forgive all the little. Let's just put it this way: pulp writing is not the most polished writing in the world. It very much is made for a quick read and quick digest. It's the low brow of written entertainment at the time. But yes, this story is from that era, and I thought it might be fun, to come and read a book from that. So, I should probably get started. So, my dear scholars, sit back, relax, have a hot or cold beverage of your liking, dim the lights if you wish, and let us begin our reading of The Moon Pool. And I gotta get the name again. Abraham Merritt. Hold on a second. Sorry, that's not what I wanted. Oh, here we go. All right then. I have to have I have to have a copy of it from Project Gutenberg in front of me because unfortunately this book is not, even if it's even in the public domain, it's not readily available, or at least easily available. I'll see if I can get a proper copy next time. Usually I skip the introductions, but we are going to read the foreword for this. Foreword. The publication of the following narrative of Dr. Walter T. Goodwin has been authorized by the Executive Council of the International Association of Science. First, to end officially what is beginning to be called the Throckmorton mystery, and to kill the innuendo and scandalous suspicions which have threatened to stain the reputations of Dr. David Throckmorton, his youthful wife, and equally youthful associate, Dr. Charles Stanton, ever since a tardy dispatch from Melbourne, Australia, reported the disappearance of the first from a ship sailing to that port, and the subsequent reports of the disappearance of his wife and associate from the camp of their expedition in the Caroline Islands. Second, because the Executive Council has concluded that Dr. Goodwin's experiences in his wholly heroic effort to save the three, and the lessons and warnings within those experiences, are too important to humanity as a whole to be hidden away in scientific papers, understandable only to the technically educated, or to be presented through the newspaper press in the abridged and fragmentary form which the space limitations of that vehicle make necessary. Darth, our favorite word recording to Google isn't in this book. Me sad now. Aww. I'm sorry, Darth. What if I try and slip some in just for you? For these reasons, the Executive Council commissioned Mr. A. Merritt to transcribe into form to be readily understood by the layman the stenographic notes of Dr. Goodwin's own report to the Council, supplemented by further oral reminiscence and comments by Dr. Goodwin. This transcription, edited and censored by the Executive Council of the Association, forms the contents of this book. Himself a member of the council, Dr. Walter T. Goodwin, Ph.D., F.R.G.S., etc., is without cavil the foremost of American botanists, an observer of international reputation, and the author of several apothetical treatises upon his chosen branch of science. His story, amazing in the best sense of that word, as it may be, is fully supported by proofs brought forward by him and accepted by the organization of which I have the honor to be president. What matter has been elided from this popular presentation because the excuse me, my dear scholars, the I am just tripping over my words. Excessively menacing potentialities it contains, which unrestricted dissemination might develop, will be dealt with in purely scientific pamphlets of carefully guarded circulation. The International Association of Science, per JBK, President. Darth, maybe you'll slip up and say that word instead of sit again. This will haunt you like other memes. Of course it's gonna haunt me. It's gonna haunt me forever. So a couple things about this forward. One, it shares a pattern with a lot of books at the time which is the idea of the book being events that were given to the author or that the author experienced or somehow the author found out about. The author becomes a character in his own book. It You can see this a lot in a lot of pulp stories. You can see this in a lot of regular stories. Frank L. Baum did this. L. Frank Baum did this for the Oz stories. The Doc Savage stories did this, started doing it, and kind of got rid of them. But yeah, this was an early thing they did. The other thing I wanted to note about these stories is people who read these stories in the magazine. Cool Skeleton haunting sounds like you need an I am exoscissor. Yes, I can't pronounce words, Cool Skeleton. I'm well aware I can't pronounce words. And hello there, Kinshon. Welcome. I have trouble with pronouncing some words. I really do. I really do try to fix that, unfortunately. It's something that I'm a little sensitive about at times because I could be better at it, but I trip over my own words a lot. Exorcist. Yes, I know what the word is. Um, but the other thing with this story is that at the time people actually believed it was real. They thought this was an actual scientific story. And the magazine would get letters from people demanding to know more information about this amazing tale. And they had to tell people, well, this is just a story. It's fake. It's not real. But for a time, this was believed to be a real story by readers. Darth, cool skill. All good. I can't words either. Good, good. Darth, woohoo! My partner is Matsu torturing is here. I am so happy for you, Darth. Excuse me. Chapter 1. The Thing on the Moon Path. I'm gonna have trouble right off the bat. This island is in French. For 2 months, I had been on the De Tres Casul Islands, gathering data for the concluding chapters of my book upon the flora of the volcanic islands of the South Pacific. The day before I had reached Port Moresby and had seen my specimens safely stored on board the Southern Queen. As I sat on the upper deck, I thought, with homesick mind, of the long leagues between me and Melbourne, and the longer ones between Melbourne and New York. It was one of Papua's yellow mornings when she shows herself in her sombrest, most baleful mood. The sky was smoldering ochre. Over the island brooded a spirit sullen, alien, implacable, filled with the threat of latent malefic forces waiting to be unleashed. It seemed an emanation out of the untamed, sinister heart of Papua herself, sinister even when she smiles. And now and then, on the wind, came a breath from virgin jungles, laden with unfamiliar odors, mysterious and menacing. Now, my dear scholars, I will mention with this story was written in 1919, so there are some viewpoints of culture and people which have not aged well. I am going to do my best to work around them if possible, explain them if necessary. Darth, okay, I know Matsu already welcomed you, but welcome to the stream and chat, Irving. We are very funny and chill bunch. We are very chill. We are a very welcoming and chill group here. It is on such mornings that Papa whispers to you of her immemorial ancientness and of her power. And as every white man must, I fought against her spell. Why are you fighting against it? I mean, it sounds like a lovely place. It's tropical. This is something I never. This is something I never got, which was the idea that somehow these places must be avoided. To be avoided, so your culture does not get ruined. It's like, it's a nice place. Why not stop there and enjoy yourself? Kinchon, and there might be a 6, 7 puns from time to time. Irving, don't be like Kintron and Darth. Don't listen to them. Don't be like them. Just don't. Don't. Julian 20, yes, we are family. We are family. We are definitely family. You could tell. I mean, you could tell. Darth, good wolf Kintron. Who's a good wolf? He's not a good wolf. He's a bad wolf. Cool Skeleton. What's the setting time period? 1960, 1867? This is 1918 or 1919. When I struggled, while I struggled with what? I saw a tall figure striding down the pier. A Kappa Kappa man followed, swinging a new Vasley. There was something familiar about the tall man. As he reached the gangplank, he looked up straight into my eyes, stared for a moment, then waved his hand. And now I knew him. It was Dr. David Throckmorton. Throck, he was always to me. He was to me always. One of my oldest friends, and, as well, a mind of the first water, whose power and achievements were for me a constant inspiration, as they were, I know, for scores others. Cool Skeleton Kintron can have a little treat. Tosses phalanges. Don't reward Kintron. Coincidentally, with my recognition came a shock of surprise. Definitely unpleasant. It was Throckmorton, but about him was something disturbingly unlike the man I had known long so well, and to whom and to whose little party I had bidden farewell less than a month before I myself had sailed for these seas. He had married only a few weeks before, Edith, the daughter of Professor William Fraser, younger by at least a decade than he, but at one with him in his ideals, and as much in love, if it was possible, if it were possible, as Throckmorton. By virtue of her father's training, a wonderful assistant. By virtue of her own sweet sound heart, I use the word in its olden sense, lover. With his equally youthful associate, Dr. Charles Stanton, and a Swedish woman, Thora Halverson, who had been Edith Throckmorton's nurse from babyhood. Okay. They had set forth from Non Matal, that extraordinary group of island ruins clustered along the eastern shore of Panape in the Carolines. Darth, Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. Please try reading this in a Stitch or Hawaiian voice if you can, Matsu. Um, I will not, Darth, unfortunately. And the reason I won't is because when it comes to dialect words, I'll confess I've never seen Lilo and Stitch. I've never seen that movie. I know I should. I just haven't. And as for doing dialects of like other nationalities, other cultures, one has to be very careful. It's very easy to slip into broad accents and turn something which, is you attempting a accent into something that might come become offensive. That the only way I would be able to do a Hawaiian accent is if I heard one. I can get a good grasp of dialects if I hear it 3 or 4 times. So I'm not gonna try and do one off the bat, as it were, because I would probably fail, and I would probably sound like something else. Cool Skeleton, we need to fix that ASCP. I'm telling Wastes on you. Go ahead, tell Wastes on me. I've just never seen it. I have heard the live action version's pretty bad though. Where was I? Oh, there it is. I knew that he had planned to spend at least a year among these ruins, not only of Panape, but of Lille, twin centers of colossal riddle of humanity, a weird flower of civilization that blossomed ages before the seeds of Egypt were sown, of whose arts we know little enough, and of whose science nothing. He had carried with him unusually complete equipment for the work he had expected to do, and which he hoped would be his monument. Cool skeleton, they ruined my queen! Kinchan Nani? Cool skeleton, sorry for shouting. I think I know who you're talking about, Cool skeleton. What then had brought Throckmorton to Port Moresby, and what was that change I had sensed in him? Hurrying down to the lower deck, I found him with the purser. As I spoke, he turned, thrust out to me an eager hand, and then I saw what was that difference that had so moved me. He knew, of course, by my silence and involuntary shrinking, the shock my closer look had given me. His eyes filled. He turned briskly from the purser, hesitated, then hurried off to his stateroom. Yeah. It looks rather queer, eh? Said the purser. No one will, sir. Seems to have given you quite a start. I made some reply, and went slowly up to my chair. There I sat, composed my mind, and tried to define what it was that had shaken me so. Now it came to me. The old Throckmorton was on the eve of his venture, just turned 40, lithe, erect, muscular, his controlling expression one of enthusiasm, of intellectual keenness, of, what shall I say, expectant search. His always questioning brain had stamped its vigor upon his face. Darth, how have you not seen Stitch? The live action gets a 7 out of 10 for me. I just haven't. There's this whole era of those animated films that just I never saw. I mean, I hadn't even seen The Emperor's New Groove until about a month back. And that was the first time I had seen it. Excuse me. But the Throckmorton I had seen below was one who had borne some scaring shock of mingled rapture and horror. Some soul cataclysm that in its climax had remolded, deep from within, his face, setting on its seal of wedded ecstasy and despair, as though indeed these two had come to him hand in hand, taken possession of him, and departing left behind, irrecoverably, their linked shadows. Tony, I've never seen them either. Darth, I can't believe I got that 6-7 meme pass. I have been told I have to continue reading, but yes, we get it, Darth. Good for you. Darth, I'm laughing so hard right now I can't breathe. Darth saying, well, pack it up, everyone. We found the way to forcibly desummon a Matsu. That's not fair! That's not fair! Kitron, I'm not reading that! I am not reading that! Private Merrick Parish, Darth. If I could move my arm right now, you would get such a pointing. Such a finger wag. I can't, because it's stuck under the desk. So I'll just have to continue reading. Yes, it was that which appalled. For how could rapture and horror, heaven and hell mix, clasp hands, kiss? So a thing about pulp writing is a lot of big words, a lot of overdramatic prose, and a lot of odd similes. Excuse me. Yet these were what in closest embrace lay on Throckmorton's face. Deep in thought, subconsciously with relief, I watched the shoreline sink behind, welcomed the touch of the wind of the free seas. I had hoped, and within the hope was an inexplicable shrinking that I would meet Throckmorton at lunch. He did not come down. I was sensible of deliverance within my disappointment. All that afternoon I lounged about uneasily, but still he kept to his cabin, and within me was no strength to summon him, nor did he appear at dinner. Cool Skeleton, I almost thought you were going to put Darth in a chokehold. Oh, maybe someday. Darth, he wouldn't be able to I'd use the Force to stop that from happening. We'll see about that, Darth. We'll see. But for now, we'll continue reading. Excuse me. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Dusk and night fell swiftly. I was warm and went back to my deck chair. The Southern Queen was rolling to a disquieting swell, and I had the place to myself. Over the heavens was a canopy of cloud, glowing faintly, and testifying to the moon riding behind it. There was much phosphorescence. Fitfully before the ship and at her sides arose those strange little swirls of mist that swirl up from the southern ocean like breath of sea monsters, whirl for an instant, and disappear. Suddenly the deck door opened, and through it came Throckmorton. He paused uncertainly, looked up at the sky with a curiously eager, intent gaze, hesitated, then closed the door behind him. "Throck!" I called. "Come! It's Goodwin!" He made his way to me. "Throck," I said, wasting no time in preliminaries. "What's wrong? Can I help you?" I felt his body grow tense. "I'm going to Melbourne, Goodwin," he answered. "I need a few things. Need them urgently, and more men." I'm not going to say the next word because it's very obvious what kind of story this is. He stopped abruptly, rose from his chair, gazed intently toward the north. I followed his gaze. Far, far away the moon had broken through the clouds. Almost on the horizon you could see the faint luminescence of it upon the smooth sea. The distant patch of light quivered and shook. The clouds thickened again, and it was gone. The ship raced on southwards swiftly. Throckmorton dropped into his chair. He lighted a cigarette with a hand that trembled, then turned to me with abrupt resolution. "Goodwin," he said, "I do need your help. If ever man needed it, I do. Goodwin, can you imagine yourself in another world? Alien, unfamiliar, a world of terror, whose unknown joy is its greatest terror of all. You all alone there, a stranger. As such a man would need help. So I need." He paused abruptly and arose. "Darth, oh, one of my bullet chess games I won recently had an accuracy of. I had a game today that had an accuracy of. Why do you do this to me? You're really trying to trip me up." As for this story, I don't know why, being in a place where being happy is just the most terrifying thing ever. Throckmorton sounds like a real killjoy here. He paused abruptly and arose. The cigarette dropped from his fingers. The moon had again broken through the clouds, and this time much nearer. Not a mile away was the patch of light that it threw upon the waves. Back of it, to the rim of the sea, was a lane of moonlight. A gigantic gleaming serpent racing over the edge of the world, straight and surely toward the ship. Throckmorton stiffened to it as a pointer does to a hidden convoy. To me, from him pulsed a thrill of horror, but horror tinged with an unfamiliar and infernal joy. It came to me and passed away, leaving me trembling with its shock of bittersweet. Darth, also, I wonder if Goodwin ever had a good win in his life. Ah! He bent forward, all his soul in his eyes. The moon path swept closer, closer still. It was now less than half a mile away. From it, the ship fled, almost as though pursued. Down upon it, swift and straight, a radiant torrent cleaving the waves, raced the moonstream. Good God! Breathed Throckmorton. And if ever the words were a prayer and an invocation, they were. And then, for the first time, I saw it. The moon path stretched to the horizon was bordered by darkness. It was as though the clouds above had been parted to form a lane drawn aside like curtains, or as the waters of the Red Sea were held back to let the hosts of Israel through. On each side of the stream was the black shadow cast by the folds of the high canopies, and straight as a row between the opaque walls gleamed, shimmered, and danced the shining, racing rapids of the moonlight. Darth, I'm on my A game today. It's definitely the 2 caramel chip pancakes I had for dinner fueling my brain. Oh, that sounds lovely. That sounds wonderful. Far, it seemed, immeasurably far along this stream of silver fire, I sensed, rather than saw, something coming. It drew first into sight as a deeper glow within the light. On and on it swept towards us in opalescent mistiness that sped with the suggestion of some winged creature in arrowed flight. Dimly there crept into my mind memory of the Dyak legend of the winged messenger of Buddha, the Akla bird whose feathers are woven of the moon rays, whose heart is a living opal, whose wings in flight echo the crystal clear music of the white stars, but of whose beak is a frozen flame and shreds the souls of unbelievers. Is this real? I mean, this doesn't. I don't. Is this something that is in folklore? 'Cause I don't know if that actually is real. It seems a little too harsh to be real. I don't know. It just kind of bothers me. Excuse me. Closer it drew, and now there came to my sweet insist, and then closer it drew, and now there came to me sweet, insistent tinklings, like pizzicati on violins of glass, crystal clear, diamonds melting into sounds. Now the thing was close to the end of the white path, close up to the barrier of darkness still between the ship and the sparkling head of the moon stream. Now it beat up against that barrier as a bird against the bars of its cage. It whirled with shimmering plumes, with swirls of lacy light, with spirals of living vapor. It held within it odd, unfamiliar gleams as of shifting mother of pearl. Corsica- Corsications and glittering atoms drifted through it as though it drew them from the rays that bathed it. This is a lot of description, my dear scholars. Oh my goodness gracious. Nearer and nearer it came, borne on the sparkling waves, and ever thinner shrank the protecting walls of shadow between it and us. Within the mistiness was a core, a nucleus of intenser light, veined, opaline, effulgent, intensely alive. And above it, tangled in the plumes and spirals that throbbed and whirled, were 7 glowing lights. You can probably guess what first came to my mind with this. Cool Skeleton, did you know that my playthrough of the Ace Attorney trilogy took 59 streams? Streams, it did? Oh my goodness, cool skeleton. Wow. That's a lot. I hope that was 59. Yeah, that was 59. Darth, they were lovely. Making the batter took 15 minutes. Cooking them, following the recipe cooking time took 6 to 7 minutes. I get it, I get it, I get it. Another win for Darth. Where was I? Through all the incessant but strangely ordered movement of the thing, these lights held firm and steady. They were seven. Where was I? Oh, sorry. Like seven little moons. One was of a pearly pink, one of a delicate narcorescent blue, one of lambent saffron, one of the emerald you see in the shallow waters of tropic isles, a deathly white, a ghostly amethyst, and one of the silver that is seen only when the flying fish leap beneath the moon. The tinkling music was louder still. It pierced the ears with a shower of tiny lances. It made the heart beat jubilantly and checked it dolorously. It closed the throat with a throb of rapture and gripped it tight with the hand of infinite sorrow. Came to me now a murmuring cry, stilling the crystal notes. It was articulate, but as though from something utterly foreign to this world. The ear took the cry and translated with conscious labor into the sounds of earth, and even as it compassed, the brain shrank from it irresistibly, and simultaneously it seemed reached toward it with irresistible eagerness. Cool skull. Apparently, a cow has four stomachs and an octopus has three hearts. Interesting. Also, what? How long are we going into this description? Throckmorton strode toward the front of the deck, straight toward the Vision, now but a few yards away from the stern. His face had lost all human semblance. Utter agony and utter ecstasy. There they were side by side, not resisting each other, unholy inhuman companions, blending into a look that none of God's creatures should wear, and deep, deep as his soul. A devil and a god dwelling harmoniously side by side. So much Satan, newly fallen, still divine, seeing heaven and contemplating hell, have appeared. And then, swiftly the moon path faded. The clouds swept over the sky as though a hand had drawn them together. Up from the south came a roaring squall. As the moon vanished, what I had seen vanished with it, blotted out as an image on a magic lantern. The tinkling ceased abruptly, leaving a silence like that which follows an abrupt thunderclap. There was nothing about us but silence and blackness. So a thing about pulp magazines, similar to other magazines at the time, some stories were some stories were written by authors who were paid by the word. So they had a tendency to fill up a lot of the pages, as you can tell. Darth, by the way, I'm eating junk food now, so me torturing you is dangerous as I might choking while laughing. I'll try not to make you laugh, Darth. Excuse me. Through me passed a trembling as one who has stood on the very verge of the gulf, wherein the men of the Louisiades Louisades says lurks the fisher of the souls of men, and has been plucked back by sheerest chance. Throckmorton passed an arm around me. "It is as I thought," he said. In his voice was a new note, the calm certainty that had swept aside a waiting terror of the unknown. "Now I know. Come with me to my cabin, old friend, for now that you two have seen, I can tell you." He hesitated. "What it was you saw," he ended. As we passed through the door, we met the ship's first officer. Throckmorton composed his face into at least a semblance of normality. Going to have much of a storm? He asked. Yes, said the mate. Probably all the way to Melbourne. Throckmorton strained as though with a new thought. He gripped the officer's sleeve eagerly. You mean at least cloudy weather for... He hesitated. For the next 3 nights? Say. And for 3 more, replied the mate. Thank God! Cried Throckmorton, and I think I never heard such relief and hope as was in his voice. The sailor stood amazed. Thank God, he repeated. Thank... What do you mean? But Throckmorton was moving onward to his cabin. I started to follow. The first officer stopped me. Your friend, he said. Is he ill? The sea, I answered hurriedly. He's not used to it. I'm going to look after him. Doubt and disbelief were plain in the seaman's eyes, but I hurried on, for I knew now that Throckmorton was ill indeed, but with a sickness the ship's doctor, nor any other, could heal. Need more drink. What an odd beginning to the story. So there's something about the moon that terrifies Throckmorton. Throckmorton wants to get a whole bunch of men to go back to wherever he came from. And, yeah, he's a little bit crazy now. So we'll see where this leads. Chapter 2. Dead. All dead. Lovely title for a chapter. He was sitting face in hands on the side of his berth as I entered. He had taken off his coat. Throck, I cried. What was it? What are you flying from, man? Where's your wife? And Stanton? Dead, he replied monotonously. Dead, all dead. Then, as I recoiled from him, all dead. Edith, Stanton, Thora, dead or worse. And Edith, in the moon pool, with them, drawn by what you saw on the moon path, that has put its brand upon me, and follows me. He ripped open his shirt. Look at this, he said. Around his chest above his heart the skin was white as pearl. This whiteness was sharply defined against the healthy tint of the body. It circled him with an even cincture about 2 inches wide. Darth, I was looking up to see if the word was in this book. Google spat out information on the word. Older books had the word in them a lot. In the context of early book, to say suddenly. I see, Darth. I see. Burn it, he said, and offered me a cigarette. I drew back. He gestured. Peremptorily, I pressed the glowing end of the cigarette into the ribbons of white flesh. He did not flinch, nor was there odor of burning, nor, as I drew the little cylinder away, any mark upon the whiteness. Feel it. That's pretty straightforward. Okay. He commanded again. I placed my fingers upon the band. It was cold, like frozen marble. He drew his shirt around him. 2 things you have seen, he said. It and its mark. Seeing you must believe my story, Goodwin. I tell you again that my wife is dead. Or worse, I do not know. The prey of what you saw. So too is Stanton, so Thor, how... Tears rolled down the seared face. Why did God let it conquer us? Why did he let it take my Edith? He cried in utter bitterness. Are there things stronger than God, do you think, Walter? I hesitated. Are there? Are there? His wild eyes searched me. This is so dramatic. I do not know just how you define God. I managed at last through my astonishment to make answer. If you mean the will to know, working through science. He waved me aside impatiently. Science, he said. What is our science against that? Or against the science of whatever devils that made it, or made the way for it to enter this world of ours? With an effort, he regained control. I need another drink of water. Oh my goodness, this is going through. Goodwin, he said, do you know it? Do you know at all of the ruins on the Carolines? The Cyclopean megalithic cities and harbors of Ponape and Lele? Of Kusaye, of Rook and Hogulu, and a score of other islets there? Particularly, do you know of the non-metal and the metalanam? Of the metalanam I've heard and seen photographs, I said. They call it, don't they, the Lost Venice of the Pacific? Look at this map, said Throckmorton. That, he went on, is Christian's chart of Metalam Harbor and the non-metal. Do you see the rectangles marked non-touch? I think that's the right pronunciation. It's hard to pronounce some of these words. Yes, I said. There, he said. Under those walls is the moon pool, and the 7 gleaming lights that raise the dweller in the pool, and the altar and shrine of the dweller. And there in the moon pool with it lie Edith and Stanton and Thora. The dweller in the moon pool? I repeated half incredulously. The thing you saw, said Throckmorton solemnly. A solid sheet of rain swept the ports, and the Southern Queen began to roll on the rising swells. Throckmorton drew another deep breath of relief, and drawing aside a curtain, peered out into the night. Its blackness seemed to reassure him. At any rate, when he sat again, he was entirely calm. There are no more wonderful ruins in the world, he began almost casually. They take in some 50 islets and cover with their intersecting canals and lagoons about 12 square miles. Who built them? None knows. We probably have a pretty good idea who built them, yeah, nowadays. When were they built? Ages before the memory of present man, that is sure. 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 years ago. The last more likely. All these islets, Walter, are squared, and their shores are frowning sea walls of gigantic basalt blocks hewn and put in place by the hands of ancient man. Each inner waterfront is faced with a terrace of those basalt blocks which stand out 6 feet above the shallow canals that meander between them. On the islets behind these walls are time-shattered fortresses, palaces, terraces, pyramids, immense courtyards strewn with ruins, and all so old that they seem to wither the eyes of those who look on them. There has been a great subsidence. You can stand out of Metanim Harbor for 3 miles and look down upon the tops of similar monolithic structures, and walls 20 feet below you in the water. And all about, strewn on their canals. Oh! Oh, thank you for the raid! Welcome, raiders! Hello there! Oh, give me a second, I gotta do this right. Hello there, Cider Martin. Welcome. We are just on the 2nd chapter of The Moon Pool. Hello there, Raiders. I am Matsu Quintox, interdimensional omniversal librarian. This is Horace, and welcome. Glad to have you here. Let me give you a shout out. Cider Martin. Hello there. What were you doing, Cider Martin? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Were you reading a book? Were you playing a game? What were you doing? Hello there. Yay. Oh, you're reading spooky short stories. Oh my goodness, it's good. I love a good spooky short story, and I'm sure everyone loves a good spooky short story. I hope you read some good ones. I was aware that at one point you read a story which is one of my favorites, The Night Wire. I had saw that you had been reading that one. That one is absolutely terrifying. Oh, Dispatches from Zepico. I don't think I read that twice again tonight. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Oh yeah, that is an amazing story. Also, hello there, M4N3CTR1C. Welcome, welcome everyone, all you raiders. Welcome. Have a seat. Have yourself a hot or cold beverage. Dim the lights if you wish. If you have to go, understandable. If you want to lurk, that's fine too. We are in the middle. We are on the second chapter of the Moon Pool, which is an interesting little pulp science fiction story. Um, so far, a scientist has met another scientist who claims that his wife and the rest of his party have gone missing at the mysterious moon pool, and they encountered something on the sea, a glowing seven orbs. So things have gotten really, really kind of spooky. It was written in 1919, so the writing is a bit dated, but it's interesting so far. So we'll continue. And it's wonderful to have you here, Cider Martin. I am honored that you chose to raid this stream. Thank you. Excuse me. Now, where was I? There has been a great subsidence. You can stand out to Metanim Harbor for 3 miles and look down upon the tops of similar monolithic structures and walls 20 feet below you in the water. And all about, strewn on their canals, are the bulwark islets with their enigmatic walls peering through the dense growths of mangroves. Dead, deserted for incalculable ages, shunned by those who live near. You, as a botanist, are familiar with the evidence that a vast shadowy continent existed in the Pacific. A continent that was not rent asunder by volcanic forces as was that legendary one of the Atlantis in the Eastern Ocean. Okay, I'm going to pause here because this is a really, really interesting little bit of history. So, the continent they're talking about here, I don't know if they'll give the name later on in the book, but I'm going to talk about it here, is the lost continent of Mu. Now, this continent was created essentially by scientists for a time, was postulated to explain. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Double raid! Welcome, D double DD. Welcome! Glad to have you here. Oh my goodness gracious! Oh, oh, we are honored. Welcome, Raiders! Hello there, Lady of Toast, Ice Dragon Aftermath, ND Jack Sparrow, Chocobo Meteor. Welcome! Thank you for the follow, D double DD. Welcome! Oh my goodness! Oh, what a coincidence. We were just talking about moons. Oh, were you? Let me give a shout out. What were you all up to? Oh my goodness, so many followers. Oh my goodness gracious. Let me get this. Give you a shout out. Oh my goodness. Thank you for the follow, Kaiju Kotaro. Making a solar system interesting. Planets and moons and all that jazz. Also some stars. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. It's a lot of fun. This story is from the pulp era, so it's gonna be interesting to see how they treat their solar system. I mean, 1919 there was still a lot not known about space. So we're gonna see that. But welcome, Raiders. Hello there, book lovers. 09. Welcome. I am Matsu Quinox, interdimensional omniversal librarian. This is Horace. I am a reading streamer. I do reading streams on Thursdays, gaming streams on Mondays, variety streams once in a while, and welcome. If you have to raid and run, that's fine. If you want to lurk, that's fine too. I need to go right and take care of dinner. Please enjoy your stream. That's fine. Thank you for the raid. Double Blindini, welcome. Kaiju Horace is super cute. Ah, well, Horace says Horace says Horace is grateful. Kintron, he loves puns too. I do not love puns, Kintron. Do not put ideas into their heads. Ignore Kintron. We do not like puns here. Yes, hello there, P3SC. I hope that's an I or an L. I can't tell. Yo, as well. We are in the middle of reading The Moon Pool, a pulp story from 1919 involving apparently a group which went off to search for something. They've gone missing. Our narrator, who is a scientist, has met the only survivor of the expedition, and now the expedition survivor is going to try and explain what's going on. And I was just talking about the lost continent of Mu and why this is a big deal in this story. So, they're talking about a missing continent right now. The continent they're referring to is the lost continent of Mu. Kintron, his favorite character ever, HM Wogglebug TH. Stop talking about that, Kintron! You're gonna put the wrong ideas in their heads! No! Bad, bad, bad wolf. Where was I? Lost continent of Mu. So, the lost continent of Mu was a theory at the time, and it was a theory to solve a problem that a lot of anthropologists were running into, which was the fact that a lot of Darth, he loves puns so much, but his brain can only handle six. Stop it, Darth! I do not like puns. And 6 to 7 memes, no, do not do them. As I was saying, the lost continent of Mu was a theory that someone came up with to explain an anthropological mystery, which was anthropologists were really puzzled by the fact that there were these Pacific islands miles and miles and miles away from each other, and yet many of them had the same cultures, the same mythology, the same folk tales, shared the same language bases. For instance, the demigod Maui appears in many different Pacific islands, and yet these islands were spaced far apart from each other. Kinshons, well, similar animals, yes. And so, at the time, one of the theories was that all these islands were once the mountains of a great continent in the Pacific Ocean, which was named Mu. Which was a way for them to explain, oh, this is where all these people were. They were once on the continent sank, and they all fled into the mountains, which became the islands, and that's why they have this shared culture. We now know, and if you've seen the Disney film Moana, that's not the case. The case was simply that these people were expert navigators and spread across the islands from island to island in ships. It was an idea that was not thought of at the time, and nowadays the continent of Mu is a fringe theory idea. But this book was written at a time where it was an actual theory. My work in Java, in Papua, and in the Landros has set my mind upon this Pacific lost land. Just as the Azores are believed to be the last high peaks of Atlantis, there you go, so hints came to me steadily that Panaipe and Lele and the basalt bulwarked islets were the last points of the slowly sunken western land, clinging still to the sunlight, and had been the last refuge and sacred places of the rulers of that race which had lost their immemorial home under the rising waters of the Pacific. Kinshon, who would win a navigational contest, Polynesians or Vikings? So I'm actually going to give it to the Polynesians because the Polynesians have one thing superior to, well, one of the things superior to the Vikings. The Vikings mostly did their navigation sticking to coastal waters. They would basically move coast to coast to coast to coast. They would use the coasts as a breaking point. That's why you have Scandinavia to England to Iceland to Greenland to Vinland. They would basically bounce off each coast, essentially. And most of the time, they had a very hard time navigating at night. There were ways to do it, but it was very difficult because they would use the sun as a focal point for navigation. Polynesians didn't have that weakness. They could do it by night, navigate by the stars, could navigate through open water in very large bodies of water. So I would put it to the Polynesians that they were better navigators. Or at least they had less weakness than the Vikings. I believe that under these ruins I might find the evidence that I sought. My my wife and I had talked before we were married of making this our great work. After the honeymoon we prepared for the expedition. Stanton was as enthusiastic as ourselves. We sailed, as you know, last May for fulfillment of my dreams. At Panape we selected, not without difficulty, workmen to help us, diggers. I had to make extraordinary inducements before I could get together my force. Their beliefs are gloomy, these Panapians. Wow, judgmental. They people their swamps, their forests, their mountains and shores with malignant spirits. Ani, they call them. And they are afraid, bitterly afraid of the isles of ruins and what they think the ruins hide. I do not wonder. Now, when they were told where they were to go, and how long we expected to stay, they murmured. Those who at last were tempted made what I thought was then merely a superstitious proviso that they were to be allowed to go away on the 3 nights of the full moon. Would to God we had heeded them and gone too. There's another thing I will admit I'm a sucker for pulps when it comes to how super dramatic they are. They are absolutely dramatic pieces of fiction. We passed into Medellinem harbor. Off to our left, a mile away, arose a massive quadrigal. Its walls were all of 40 feet high and hundreds of feet on each side. As we drew by, our natives grew very silent, watched it furtively, fearfully. I knew it for the ruins that are called Non-Touch, the place of frowning walls. And at the silence of my men I recalled what Christian had written of this place, of how he had come upon its ancient platforms and tetragonal enclosures of stonework, its wonder of tortuous alleyways and labyrinth of shallow canals, grim masses of stonework peering out from behind verdant screens, cyclopean barricades, and of how, when he had turned into its ghostly shadows, straightway the merriment of guides was hushed, and conversation died down to whispers. You know, I mentioned how people say that H.P. Lovecraft took some things from this for Call of Cthulhu. I can see it. I can see it in these descriptions. He was silent for a little time. Of course, I wanted to pitch our camp there. He went on again quietly, but I soon gave up that idea. The natives were panic-stricken, threatened to turn back. No, they said, too great auntie there. We go to any other place, but not there. We finally picked for our base the inlet called Ushentau. It was close to the Isle of Desire, but far enough away from it to satisfy our men. There was an excellent camping place and a spring of fresh water. We pitched our tents. In a couple of days the work was in full spring. And oh my goodness, they have they have a uh, they have a footnote here. Oh my goodness gracious! I'm gonna read the footnote. For more detailed observations on these points, refer to G. Vulcan's Über der Carolinian Gesellschaft in Verhandlungen, Gesellschaft und Kunde Berlin, 1901. J.S. Kuberi, Ethnographischer Beitrag zur Kenntnis des kleinen Archipel. I cannot do German. London, 1889 to 1892. Der Abend der Historia del Conflicto de las Carolinas, Madrid, 1886. That's an interesting thing again with some of these types of stories is they like to add in the idea that this knowledge is hidden in foreign texts and texts from other countries. Again, it's all very much these old style pulp exploration stories, that style of fiction. All very exciting to the reader. It makes it feel very authentic and mysterious. This next chapter is a little bit longer. Okay, let me get ready. I better hold on. I gotta reach for another water just in case. I'm gonna run it out. It was me again. Chapter 3, The Moon Rock. I do not intend to tell you now, Throckmorton continued, the results of the next 2 weeks, nor of what we found. Later, if I'm allowed, I will lay all that before you. It is sufficient to say that at the end of those 2 weeks I had found confirmation for many of my theories. The place, for all its decay and desolation, had not infected us with any touch of mobility. That is not Edith, Stanton, or myself. But Thora was very unhappy. She was a Swede, as you know, and in her blood ran the beliefs and superstitions of the Northland, some of them so strangely akin to those of this far southern land. Beliefs of spirits of mountain and forest and water, werewolves and beings malign. From the first she showed a curious sensitivity to what I suppose may be called the influences of the place. She said it smelled of ghosts and warlocks. I laughed at her then. 2 weeks slipped by, and at their end the spokesman for our natives came to us. The next night was the full of the moon, he said. He reminded me of my promise. They would go back to their village in the morning. They would return after the third night, when the moon had begun to wane. They left us sundry charms for our protection, and solemnly cautioned us to keep as far away as possible from non-touch during their absence. Half exasperated and half amused, I watched them go. Why are you feeling that way? You made a promise to them and an agreement, and all of a sudden you have a problem with it? Oh, I, I should not be surprised, though. I should not be surprised. No work could be done without them, of course, so we decided to spend the days of their absence junketing about the southern isles of the group. We marked down several spots for subsequent exploration. Sorry, fumble on these words. And on the morning of the third day set forth along the east face of the breakwater for our camp on Tao, planning to have everything in readiness for the return of our men the next day. We landed just before dusk, tired and ready for our cots. It was only a little after 10 o'clock that Edith awakened me. Listen, she said. Lean over with your ear close to the ground. I did so, and seemed to hear, far, far below, as though coming up from great distance, a faint, chanting. It gathered strength, died down, ended, began, gathered volume, faded away into silence. It's the waves rolling on rocks somewhere. Oh, that's him. Sorry. It's the waves. It's the waves rolling on rocks somewhere, I said. We're probably over some ledge of rock that carries the sound. It's the first time I've heard it, replied my wife doubtfully. We listened again. Then through the dim rhythms, deep beneath us, another sound came. It drifted across the lagoon that lay between us and Nontouch in little tinkling waves. It was music of a sort. I won't describe the strange effect it had upon me. You felt it. You mean on the deck? I asked. Throckmorton nodded. I went to the flap of the tent, he continued, and peered out. As I did so, Stanton lifted his flap and walked out into the moonlight, looking over to the other islet and listening. I called to him. That's the queerest sound, he said. He listened again. Crystalline, like little notes of translucent glass, like the bells of crystal on the steerums of Isis at Dendadri Temple. He added half dreamily. We gazed intently at the island. Suddenly, on the seawall, moving slowly, rhythmically, we saw a little group of lights. Stanton laughed. The beggars! He exclaimed. That's why they wanted to get away, is it? Don't you see, Dave? It's some sort of festival. Rites of some kind that they hold during the full moon. That's why they were so eager to have us keep away, too. The explanation seemed good. I felt a curious sense of relief, although I had not been sensible of any oppression. Let's slip over, suggested Stanton, but I would not. That's actually kind of a smart thing to do, even if it wasn't what it seemed. You kind of don't want to insult another person's culture like that. They're a difficult lot as it is, I said. If we break into one of their religious ceremonies, they'll probably never forgive us. Let's keep out of any family party where we haven't been invited. That's so, agreed Stanton. The strange tinkling rose and fell, rose and fell. There's something very unsettling about it, said Edith at last soberly. I wonder what they make those sounds with. They frighten me half to death, and at the same time, they make me feel as though some enormous rapture were just around the corner. It's devilish uncanny, broke in Stanton. As he spoke, the flap of Thor's tent was raised, and out into the moonlight strode the old Swede. She was the great Norse type, tall, deep-breasted, molded on the old Viking lines. Her 60 years had slipped from her. She looked like some ancient priestess of Odin. She stood there, her eyes wide, brilliant, staring. She thrust her head forward toward Nontouch, regarding the moving lights. She listened. Suddenly she raised her arms and made a curious gesture to the moon. It was an archaic movement. She seemed to drag it from remote antiquity, yet in it was a strange suggestion of power. Twice she repeated this gesture, and the tinklings died away. She turned to us. Go, she said, and her voice seemed to come from far distances. Go from here, and quickly. Go while you may. It has called. She pointed to the islet. It knows you are here. It waits. she wailed. "It beckons. The. It's very hard to do a Swedish accent with some of these lines. She fell at Edith's feet, and over the lagoon came again the tinklings, now with a quicker note of jubilance, almost of triumph. We watched beside her throughout the night. The sounds from Nantage continued until about an hour before moonset. In the morning, Thora awoke. None the worse. Apparently, she had had bad dreams, she said. She could not remember what they were, except that they had warned her of danger. She was oddly sullen, and throughout the morning her gaze returned again and again, half fascinatingly, half wondering, to the neighboring isle. That afternoon the natives returned, and that night on Nantage the silence was unbroken. Nor were there lights, nor sign of life. You will understand, Goodwin, how the occurrences I have related would excite the scientific curiosity. We rejected immediately, of course, any explanation admitting the supernatural. Ah, symptoms, let me call them, could all very easily be accounted for. It is unquestionable that the vibrations created by certain musical instruments have definite and sometimes extraordinary effects upon the nervous system. We accepted this as the explanation of the reactions we had experienced, hearing the unfamiliar sounds. Thora's nervousness, her superstitious apprehensions, had wrought, yeah. Give me 1 second again, my dear scholars. Had wrought her up to a condition of semi-somnambulistic hysteria. Science could readily explain her part in the night scene. Easy. We came to the conclusion that there must be a passageway between Panape and Nantage known to the natives, and used by them during their rites. We decided that on the next departure of our laborers we would set forth immediately to Nantage. We would investigate during the day, and at evening my wife and Thor would go back to camp, leaving Stanton and me to spend the night on the island, observing from some safe hiding place what might occur. I mean, didn't he already say he didn't want to get involved? Then again, he did come up with these little excuses, so that's probably why he's more willing now. Okay, where am I? Okay. The moon waned, appeared crescent in the west, waxed slowly towards the full. Before the men left us, they literally prayed us to accompany them. Their importunities only made us more eager to see what it was that we were now convinced they wanted to conceal from us. At least that was true of Stanton and myself. It was not true of Edith. She was thoughtful, abstracted, reluctant. When the men were out of sight around the turn of the harbor, we took our boat and made straight for Nantage. Soon its mighty sea wall towered above us. We passed through the water gate with its gigantic hewn prisms of basalt and landed beside a half-submerged pier. In front of us stretched a series of giant steps, leading into a vast court strewn with fragments of fallen pillars. In the center of the court, beyond the shattered pillars, rose another terrace of basalt blocks, concealing, I knew, still another enclosure. And now, Walter, for the better understanding of what follows, and he hesitated. Should you decide later to return with me, or if I am taken to follow us, listen carefully to my description of this place. Non-touch is literally three rectangles. The first rectangle is the sea wall built up of monoliths, hewn and squared 20 feet wide at the top. To get to the gateway in the seawall, you pass along the canal marked on the map between Non-Touch and the islet named Tau. The entrance to the canal is hidden by dense thickets of mangroves. Once through these, the way is clear. The steps lead up from the landing of the sea gate through the entrance to the courtyard. Okay. This courtyard is surrounded by another basalt wall, rectangular, following with mathematical exactness the match of the outer barricades. The seawall is from 30 to 40 feet high. Originally, it must have been much higher, but there has been subsidence in parts. The wall of the first enclosure is 15 feet across the top, and its height varies from 20 to 50 feet. Here, too, the gradual sinking of the land has caused portions of it to fall. Within this courtyard is the second enclosure. Its terrace, of the same basalt as the outer walls, is about 20 feet high. Entrance is gained to it by many breaches which time has made in its stonework. This is the inner court, the heart of Non-Touch. There lies the great central vault with which is associated the one name of living being that has come to us out of the mists of the past. Hope I can pronounce this right, my dear scholars. The natives say it was the treasure house of Chao Telur, a mighty king who reigned long before their fathers. As Chan is the ancient Punapian word both for sun and king, the name means without doubt place of the Sun King. It is a memory of a dynastic name of the race that ruled the Pacific continent, now vanished, which we now know is not true. Just as the rulers of ancient Crete took the name of Minos, and the rulers of Egypt the name of Pharaoh. And opposite this place of the Sun King is the Moon Rock that hides the Moon Pool. It was Stanton who discovered the Moon Rock. We had been inspecting the inner courtyard. Edith and Thor were getting together our lunch. I came out of the vault of Chao Telur to find Stanton before a part of the terrace studying it wonderingly. What do you make of this? He asked me as I came up. He pointed to the wall. He followed his finger, and I followed his finger and saw a slab of stone about 15 feet high and 10 wide. At first, all I noticed was the exquisite nicety with which its edges joined the blocks about it. Yeah. Then I realized that its color was was subtly different, tinged with gray and a smooth, peculiar deadness. Looks more like calcite than basalt, I said. I touched it, and withdrew my hand quickly, for at the contact every nerve in my arm tingled, as though a shock of frozen electricity had passed through it. It was not cold as we know cold. It was a chill force, the phrase I have used. Frozen electricity describes it better than anything else. Stanton looked at me oddly. So you felt it too, he said. I was wondering whether I was developing hallucinations like Thora. Notice, by the way, that the blocks beside it are quite warm beneath the sun. We examined the slab eagerly. Its edges were cut as though by an engraver of jewels. They fitted against the neighboring blocks in almost a hairline. Its base was slightly curved and fitted as though closely as top and sides upon the huge stones on which it rested. And then we noted that these stones had been hollowed to follow the line of the grey stone's foot. There was a semi-circle depression running from one side of the slab to the other. It was as though the grey rock stood in the center of a shallow cup, revealing half, covering half. Something about this hollow attracted me. I reached down and felt it. Goodwin, although the balance of the Goodwin, although the balance of the stones that formed it, like all the stones of the courtyard, were rough and age-worn. Oh wait, I'm trying to read this sentence. It's a little bit odd. Goodwin, although the balance of the stones that formed it, like all the stones of the courtyard, were rough and age-worn. This was as smooth as even surfaced, as though it had just left the hands of the polisher. "It's a door!" exclaimed Stanton. "It swings around in that little cup. That's what makes the hollow so smooth." "Maybe you're right," I replied, "but how the devil can we open it?" We went over the slab again, pressing upon its edges, thrusting against its sides. During one of those efforts, I happened to look up and cried out. A foot above and on each side of the corner of the grey rock's lintel was a slight convexity, visible only from the angle at which my gaze struck it. You know, it might not be a good idea to open the door of an ancient ruin which even the natives are trying to avoid. Now, is it, my dear scholars? Please tell me I'm not mistaken in this matter. Uh, where am I? Oh, yeah. We carried with us a small scaling ladder, and up this I went. Private Maverick. Julian 20, you are correct. Yes. Thank you. The bosses were apparently nothing more than chiseled curvatures in the stone. I laid my hand on the one I was examining and drew it back sharply. In my palm, at the base of my thumb, I had felt the same shock that I had in touching the slab below. I put my hand back. The impression came from a spot now more than an inch wide. Dr. Zane, Indiana Jones sees no problems with this. Yeah, but how often does Indiana Jones get in trouble for doing this sort of thing? Darth, I'd open. I'm an all-powerful Sith Lord. I fear nothing. No, I'd still be careful if I were you. The impression came from a spot not more than an inch wide. I went carefully over the entire convexity, and 6 times more the chill ran through my arm. There were 7 circles an inch wide in the curved place, each of which communicated the precise sensation I have described. The convexity on the opposite side of the slab gave exactly the same results. But no amount of touching or of pressing these spots singly or in any combination gave the slightest promise of motion to the slab itself. And yet there what excuse me. And yet there what opened it, said Stanton positively. Why do you say that? I asked. I I don't know, he answered hesitantly, but something tells me so. Throck. He went on half earnestly, half laughingly. The pure scientific part of me is fighting the purely human part of me. The scientific part of me is urging me to find some way to get that slab either down or open. The human part is just as strongly urging me to do nothing of the sort and get away while I can. He laughed again shamefacedly. Which shall it be? He asked, and I thought that in his tone the human side of him was accented. It will probably stay as it is. Unless we blow it to bits, I said. Excuse me. I thought of that, he answered, and I wouldn't dare, he added soberly enough, and even as I had spoken, there came to me the same feeling that he had expressed. It was as though something passed out of the grey rock that struck my heart as a hand strikes an imperious lip. We turned away. uneasily and faced Thora coming through a breach on the terrace. "Miss Edith wants you quick," she began, and stopped. Her eyes went past me to the grey rock. Her body grew rigid. She took a few steps forward, and then ran straight to it. She cast herself upon its breast, hands and face pressed against it. We heard her scream as though her very soul were being drawn from her, and watched her fall at its foot. As we picked her up, I saw steal from her face the look I had observed when first we heard the crystal music of non-touch. That unhuman mingling of opposites. Let me see something. So I think, my dear scholars, we are going to do one more chapter for the evening. I can feel my voice giving out a little bit, but it's a shorter chapter, and I think it might make a good stop in point. So let me get a drink of water, and we will continue. That thing's falling over. Oh my goodness, so much water. Chapter 4. The First Vanishings. That's not a good sign. Excuse me. We carried Thora back, down to where Edith was waiting. We told her what had happened and what we had found. She listened gravely, and as we finished, Thora sighed and opened her eyes. "I would like to see the stone," she said. "Charles, you stay here with Thora." We passed through the outer court silently and stood before the rock. She touched it, drew back her hand as I had, thrust it forward again resolutely, and held it there. She seemed to be listening. Then she turned to me. "David," said my wife, and the wistfulness in her voice hurt me. "David, would you be very, very disappointed if we went from here without trying to find out any more about it? Would you?" "Walter, I never wanted anything so much in my life as I wanted to learn what that rock concealed. Nevertheless, I tried to master my desire, and I answered, 'Edith, not a bit, if you want us to do it.' She read my struggle in my eyes. She turned back toward the grey rock. I saw a shiver pass through her. I felt a tinge of remorse and pity. "Edith," I exclaimed, "we'll go." She looked at me again. "Science is a jealous mistress," she quoted. "No, after all, it may be just fancy. At any rate, you can't run away. No, but Dave, I'm going to stay too." And there was no changing her decision. As we neared the others, she laid a hand on my arm. "Dave," she said, "if there should be something, well, inexplicable tonight, something that seems too dangerous, will you promise to go back to our own islet tomorrow, if we can, and wait until the natives return?" I promised eagerly. The desire to stay and see what came with the night was like a fire within me. Oh dear. We know what that leads to, my dear scholars. We picked a place about 500 feet away from the steps leading into the outer court. The spot we had selected was well hidden. We could not be seen, and yet we had a clear view of the stairs and the gateway. We settled down just before dusk to wait for whatever might come. I was near the giant steps. Next to me, Edith, then Thora, and last Stanton. Night fell. After a time, the eastern sky began to lighten, and we knew that the moon was rising. It grew lighter still, and the orb peeped over the sea, swam into full sight. I glanced at Edith, and then at Thora. My wife was intently listening. Thora sat, as she had since we had placed ourselves, elbows on knees, her hands covering her face. And then, from the moonlight flooding us, there dripped down on me a great drowsiness. Sleep seemed to seep from the rays and fell upon my eyes, closing them inexorably. Edith's hand and mine relaxed. Stanton's head fell upon his breast, and his body swayed drunkenly. I tried to rise, to fight against the profound desire for slumber that pressed on me. And as I fought, Thora raised her head as though listening, and turned toward the gateway. There was infinite despair in her face, and expectancy. I tried again to rise, and a surge of sleep rushed over me. Dimly, as I sank within it, I heard a crystalline chiming, raised my lids once more with a supreme effort. Thora, bathed in light, was standing at the top of the stairs. Sleep took me for its very own, swept me into the heart of oblivion. Dawn was breaking when I wakened. Recollection rushed back. I thrust a panic-stricken hand out toward Edith, touched her, and my heart gave a great leap of thankfulness. She stirred, sat up, rubbing dazed eyes. Stanton lay on his side, back toward us, head in arms. Edith looked at me laughingly. "Heavens, what sleep!" she said. Memory came to her. "What happened?" she whispered. "What made us sleep like that?" Stanton awoke. "What's the matter?" he exclaimed. "You look as though you've been seeing ghosts." Edith caught my hands. "Where's Thora?" she cried. Before I could answer, she had run out into the open, calling. "Thora was taken," was all I could say to Stanton. Together we went to my wife, now standing beside the great stone steps, looking up fearfully at the gateway into the terraces. There I told them what I had seen before sleep had drowned me, and together we ran up the stairs, through the court, into the grey rock. The slab was closed, as it had been the day before, nor was there any trace of its having opened. No trace? Even as I thought this, Edith dropped to her knees before it and reached towards something laying at its foot. It was a little piece of gay silk. I knew it for part of the kerchief Thora wore about her hair. She lifted the fragment. It had been cut from the kerchief as though by a razor edge. A few threads ran from it, down toward the base of the slab, ran on to the base of the grey rock. And under it, the grey rock was a door, and it had opened, and Thora had passed through it. Where was I think that for the next few minutes we all were a little insane. We beat upon that portal with our hands, with stones and sticks. At last reason came back to us. Goodwin during the next 2 hours. Goodwin during the deck. Yeah, that Goodwin part always throws me off for some reason, my dear scholars, because he's talking to Goodwin, but it's just oddly placed. Goodwin. During the next 2 hours, we tried every way in our power to force entrance through the slab. The rock resisted our drills. We tried explosions at the base with charges covered by rock. They made not the slightest impression on the surface, expending their force, of course, upon the slighter resistance of their coverings. Afternoon found us hopeless. Night was coming on, and we would have to decide our course of action. I wanted to go to Ponape for help, but Edith objected that this would take hours, and after we had reached there, it would be impossible to persuade our men to return with us that night, if at all. What then was left? Clearly only one of two choices. To go back to our camp, wait for our men, and on their return try to persuade them to go with us to Nontouch. But this would mean the abandonment of Thora for at least 2 days. We could not do it. It would have been too cowardly. The other choice was to wait where we were for night to come, to wait for the rock to open as it had the night before, and to make a sortie through it for Thora before it could close again. Our path lay clear before us. We had to spend that night on Non-Touch. Ooh. I don't know if that's a smart move or not. We had, of course, discussed the sleep phenomenon very fully. If our theory that lights, sounds, and Thor's disappearance were linked with secret religious rites of the natives, the logical inference was that the slumber had produced by them, perhaps by vapors. You know as well as I what extraordinary knowledge these Pacific people have of such things. Or the sleep might have been simply coincidence and produced by emanations either gaseous or from plants, natural causes which happen to concede in their effects with the other manifestations. That seems like a little bit of a stretch there. We made some rough and ready but effective respirators. As dusk fell, we looked over our weapons. Edith was an excellent shot with both rifle and pistol. Oh, you go, girl. We had decided that my wife was to remain in the hiding place. Stanton would take up a station on the far side of the stairway, and I would place myself opposite him on the side near Edith. The place I picked out was less than 200 feet from her, and I could reassure myself now and then as to her safety as it looked down upon the hollow wherein she crouched. From our respective stations, Stanton and I could command the gateway entrance. His position gave him also a glimpse of the outer courtyard. A faint glow in the sky heralded the moon. Stanton and I took our places. The moon dawn increased rapidly. The disk swam up, and in a moment it was shining in full radius upon ruins and sea. Excuse me. As it rose, there came a curious little sighing sound from the inner terrace. Stanton straightened up and stared intently through the gateway, rifle ready. Excuse me again. Stanton, what do you see? I called cautiously. He waved a silencing hand. I turned my head to look at Edith. A shock ran through me. She lay upon her side, her face, grotesque with its nose and mouth covered by the respirator, was turned full toward the moon. She was again in deepest sleep. Need another drink? As I turned again to call to Stanton, my eyes swept the head of the steps and stopped, fascinated. for the moonlight had thickened. It seemed to be curdled there, and through it ran little gleams and veins of shimmering white fire. A languor passed through me. It was not the ineffable drowsiness of the preceding night. It was a sapping of all will to move. I tried to cry out to Stanton. I had not even the will to move my lips. Goodwin, I could not even move my eyes. Stanton was in the range of my fixed vision. I watched him leap up the steps and move toward the gateway. The curdled radiance seemed to await him. He stepped into it and was lost to my sight. For a dozen heartbeats there was silence. Then a rain of tinklings that set the pulses racing with joy and at once checked them with tiny fingers of ice. And ringing through them, Stanton's voice from the courtyard, a great cry, a scream, filled with ecstasy insupportable and horror unimaginable, and once more there was silence. I strove to burst the bonds that held me. I could not. Even my eyelids were fixed. Within them my eyes, dry and aching, burned. Then Goodwin, I first saw the inexplicable. The crystalline music swelled. Where I sat I could take in the gateway and its basalt portals, rough and broken, rising to the top of the wall 40 feet above, shattered, ruined portals, unclimbable. From this gateway, an intenser light began to flow. It grew, it gushed, and out of it walked Stanton. Stanton. But God, what a vision! A deep tremor shook him. I waited. Waited. And we'll stop there, my dear scholars, for now. I wonder what it is that they saw. That's interesting. Things are getting really spooky here. I think it's probably best that they didn't go any further into investigating this portal. Don't you agree? Hmm? Um, so yeah, this is, as you can tell, like I said, this does have the hallmarks of a lot of that sort of thing that came out of Call of Cthulhu. The ruins, the men investigating, the hidden portals, the eeriness of the ruins themselves. And it does smack of pulp writing. The very descriptive prose, the use of very large words. Julian 20, kind of nerve-wracking. It is nerve-wracking, it is. I was a little worried at first with that early chapter, but it does flow a little bit. You can feel the author getting the sense of his pace for it. Um, so then, next week, if everything goes according to plan, my dear scholars, on Monday, 20 good stories so far. It is good. It is good. I'm hoping it stays good. I am a little worried because pulp stories, I would say a lot of pulp stories of the era weren't the best fiction. Some of them were junk. This one apparently was a classic, though. A lot of people had great fond memories of it, and it was a huge bestseller as a book. Not like a bestseller as in popular fiction, but like it sold very well with people as fiction. Where was I? Oh yes, next week. Next week, if everything goes according to plan, and that's always the caveat, my dear scholars, Monday we'll be playing more of Horizon Zero Dawn. And then Thursday, we'll be doing more of the moon pool and continuing to find out what is the moon pool, what is behind the stone door, and what is going on with all this. Because I'm interested to know myself. You 20 yays. So then, let's see who we can raid tonight before we go. Um, you know what? Let's raid Kintron. Kintron's doing some reading. Looks like it's a treasury of American folk tales. Might be fun to visit him. Our favorite fairy tale wolf. So then, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye bye.